I started there on the 13th of September 1939, 3 months after World War II started. I started as a shop boy, and then I started my apprenticeship in 1940, fitting and turning, and finished in 1945 when I'd gone into the drawing office in the last 6 months. I was, 16 and I used to get the train into the city and then walk down to the quay. And walking down to the quay, I met Daphne, who was walking down to where she worked. And we eventually got together, and we stayed together then until she passed away. So we moved to Cockatoo Island in December 1963. I must admit, when the director said I should move to the island, I wasn't too happy about that, of course. Not for myself, it suited me all right because I didn't have any travelling to do, and I was on the job and so forth, but I was more concerned about Daphne and Gary because of the isolation. As it turned out, it was probably the best move I ever made. Biloela House, we lived in the southern section of Biloela House, which was a convict-built building. And they were all big rooms, and 12-foot ceilings. Oh, hush. He was a gorgeous dog. He was buried on the island. So when we arrived home, we'd let him in from the front of the house, and he'd race through the house. And of course, all the polished boards in the hallway, he had to make about 4 turns, and he was skidding around the corners. When we moved to the island, there were 45 people living there. That was 12 families. The management wanted me there as I was plant engineer, and plant maintenance engineer was the full title, responsible for all the maintenance of the dockyard. I left the drawing office to become plant engineer, but in the drawing office I was involved with doing working on plans for the ship engine room and the ships we were building. I was there for 15 years on the one bench. But I progressed from an apprentice draftsman, and then I progressed through from detailed draftsman up to a leading hand draftsman. First dock, the Fitzroy dock, was dug by convicts. The second dock, the Sutherland dock, the big dock, was dug by free labour. And when I was there, we had 4 slipways where the ships were built. And the first ship went in there in 1857. That was our business. It was building and repairing ships. All our jobs, coming and going, had to be transported by water and so forth. And it was ideal as far as all the ships around the place and the docks. And we had plenty of spaces to put ships. And at times it was full, particularly during the war, when battle-damaged ships and so forth there. And some of the sites weren't too good, where we saw ships torn open and that sort of thing. But it was always interesting. Well, Cockatoo started off as a convict jail. There were that many in there that they had 18 inches each to sleep in, one all alongside each other. They say there was only one chappie actually escaped from Cockatoo, Captain Thunderbolt. He was a bush ranger, and he ranged up around New England area for quite a few years. They said two had tried to get away and one had drowned, but I believe they both got away. Instead of being locked up at night, they hid out, and then when it got dark, they swam ashore. There were stories. One of them had a black girlfriend that helped him get away, but that's all stories. Sometime after we left, the Aborigines went over and claimed it was their land and so forth. I got a surprise to see on TV that the Aborigines were in our kitchen, and they painted all their red, black and yellow on the columns of the Searchlight Tower and all that. There's some of the things I'm not happy about, but there again, I'm not I'm a bit biased in my opinion, I suppose. One particular thing I hate is that viewing platform on the cliffside. It just detracts from the looks around the place. As a mechanical engineer, it hurts. They could have left quite a bit. And those workshops were full of machinery, and half of the workshops have gone. What workshops are left are only a shadow of what they were. They used to be full of machinery and going all the time, but now, of course, I suppose 99% of the machinery's gone, and just a few bits left. The original intention was that they just would sell the island and it would become a resort, right? They'd build units and all that sort of thing, but that fell through. It just wasn't practical. A lot of the events they put on there don't interest me at all, but it is disappointing. But to see what it's being used for, I suppose. But I also realise that they've got to do something like that to keep the place going, because it's supposed to be self-servicing now, and the government did pour quite a lot of money in, but now, but they've had a couple of flops with these events apparently. And, what's that?